To one and all, I'm Mr. Rishikesh Kumar, Assistant Professor at PCET SBPM. Would like to welcome you all to the session by CA Pramod Jansar on the topic how to ensure compliance with the provisions of CARO 2020. On behalf of PCET Pune Business School, I would like to request CA Pramod Jansar to please take charge and begin the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Rishikesh. It has really been a marathon series of webinars for last 29 days, and today we are on the 30th day, and truly been it has truly been an exciting journey of delivering sessions on 30 completely unrelated topics pertaining and of interest to all the professionals, whether chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, lawyers, MBAs, and businessmen, directors, registered valuers, insolvency professionals, and everything. So we have covered really a wide spectrum of the topics: insolvency, valuation, indices, Companies Act, corporate governance, SEBI regulations, how to manage the life, how to manage the work-life balance, how to scale the pinnacles of success in life. So really, I must thank and acknowledge the involvement of Pune Business School of Pimpri Chinchwad Education Trust, and also the SQP Global Skills Academy, and involvement of everyone from the side of PCET. And more so, I have been interacting with Professor Rishikesh, and also Dr. Krishna, so and Ketan. So all of you really have done a fantastic job in bringing out this entire series, and I must really acknowledge and thank all of you for your very active involvement. Today's session, friends, and today's topic is how to ensure compliance with the provisions of the company's Auditor's Report Order 2020. As far as the corporates are concerned, as far as the corporate governance is concerned, audit, of course, is a very important and integral part of the entire process of corporate governance. As we have discussed many times, with the passage of time, the size of the businesses have been increasing, and as much as the businesses in last 3-4 decades have been going overseas and becoming transnationals, and therefore there is always an urgent need that the audit function is strengthened as much as possible, because in my view, besides the corporates being responsible on their own and taking care of the corporate governance without any need for any external rules and regulation from the outside on the corporate governance, audit is one function that can really facilitate and is facilitating in a big way as far as the corporate governance is concerned. Now, the government of India from time to time keeps bringing out different rules and regulations, and the first time when they brought out a CARO was in 2003, and since 2003 they have been bringing out from time and again. And before this CARO of 2020, the previous one was in 2016, and this CARO 2020, though it was supposed to be initially made applicable from 1st April 2019, but because of the COVID scenario, the date has been shifted to 1st April 2020. That means for the current financial year in which we are currently, CARO 2020 is applicable. That means all the companies to which CARO 2020 is applicable, they will have to ensure, the auditors of those companies will have to ensure that in their audit report that they prepare as per section 143 of the Companies Act, all the 21 clauses which are specifically covered in CARO 2020 are covered in their audit report and commented upon on their audit report. And therefore, friends, I just thought that why not to have a session which is on CARO 2020, so as to share the features and the provisions of CARO 2020 with our professional brothers, chartered accountants, as much as even the cost accountants and company secretaries will also benefit from CARO from this session, because many of the provisions, which are there as part of CARO are in many of the provisions, even the company secretaries also have a role to play, or the cost accountants also have a role to play. So with this intent and the objective, I thought of including this also as one of the topic, and have kept it purposely for the last day, because as they say that you must always save the best for the last. So today is our best last session, and which is on CARO. What is the purpose of this session? The purpose of this session, friends, number one is management of every company has the responsibility of ensuring that the proper books of accounts of all the financial transactions of the business are maintained in a way so that anyone who looks at them, who reads them, is able to take well-informed economic decisions. So that is the responsibility with the management of the company. But remember, unfortunately or incidentally, it does not happen all the time. So many times, knowingly or unknowingly, in the past, managements of companies have failed in fulfilling this duty of theirs. As a result of that, many companies have come in trouble in the past. And therefore, to keep a check on this responsibility of the management of a company, of keeping the proper books of accounts, there is a provision of the audit in the Companies Act. And the auditors have a responsibility to check and confirm that prima facie the company has been maintaining the books of accounts in a manner in which they are required to be maintained. So पहले क्या है? सबसे पहले there is a responsibility on the part of the management. Management, that means the team which is entrusted with the responsibility of running the operations of the company. तो उनकी जिम्मेदारी है कि वो proper books of accounts maintain करें. And then to keep a check on that activity, then you have auditors. Auditors' job is to ensure that with the checks and balances and the audit of the books of accounts and everything related, they are able to confirm that everything has been kept as per the requirement of the law and as per the requirement of good corporate governance. Now, in this, friends, there is a role that India also has to play. So the government of India from time to time, through different rules and regulations, keep coming out with new provisions that is to further enhance this responsibility on the part of the company as well as on the part of the auditors. And as I said, that they have been bringing out CARO since 2003, and now we have this CARO of 2020 in force, effective from 1st April 2020. So the government of India, through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, has been issuing CARO rules since 2003, the latest being 2020, and of course it has got some companies which are most companies are part of the to most companies in this country CARO is applicable. To some companies it is not applicable. Which are those companies to which CARO is not applicable, we would discuss as we move forward. Now, what does CARO does? I mean, that is very important for all of us to understand. कि CARO करता क्या है? CARO की significance क्या है? CARO की जरूरत क्या है? See, what CARO does, CARO draws attention of the auditors of some of the specific areas. So what CARO does, from the time to time, the government of India, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs have been coming out with new CAROs, and every time they come out with a new CARO, there are new provisions. Some of the old provisions are removed, some more new provisions are added, so as to take care of the changed requirements of the audit function. So what CARO does, CARO specifies, let's say for example, in case of CARO 2020, there are 21 clauses. Now, what is the significance of these 21 clauses? The significance of these 21 clauses is that every auditor of a company to which CARO is applicable will have to specifically scrutinize and audit the matters pertaining to these 21 clauses, and he will have to report in his audit report under section 143 of the Companies Act, specifically saying that this company has complied with the clauses covered in CARO. So ये जो 21 जो areas हैं जो हम लोग discuss करेंगे एक एक करके हम देखेंगे, तो you would realize that the way these 21 areas, the clauses have been incorporated. Now these 21 clauses which are incorporated as part of the CARO, these are so important. By merely reading the auditor's report with regard to these 21 points. Anyone who is interested in the financials of a company can figure it out as to what is the situation of this company as far as the financials are concerned and as far as the performance is concerned. That is the significance of Caro's 21 clauses of Caro 2020. So in this background, what is the purpose of this session that we have, friends? The purpose of this session that we have is to discuss these specific requirements as specified in Caro 2020, so that the participants and the people who are attending with us this session today, they are able to, they are better equipped to take care of the same during the process of audit of the entities to whom Caro 2020 is applicable, and also report the same in the auditor's report to ensure better compliance with the financial requirements in this country applicable to that company. So friends, this is the objective and the purpose that we have as far as this session is concerned of today, which incidentally happens to be the last session of this marathon webinar series. Now, what are we going to cover in next 1 hour? We would look at number one, as to which are the companies to which Caro is applicable. Number two, which are the companies to which Caro is not applicable. I'm sure many of the people who are in the audit function watching this program live, either on Zoom or on Facebook or on YouTube, or who would view this program offline and many of the social medias where all these sessions will be uploaded. So they would also like to know as to which are the companies to which Caro is not applicable, because if Caro is not applicable, then the auditor's responsibility with regard to those companies is not there, and they do not have to do anything about. Then there are small companies which are the definition of small company. Then we will understand what are the changes in Caro. Then we will also understand what are the changes in Caro 2020 from Caro 2016. So the Caro that was available applicable in 2016, जिसमें कि 16 clauses थे, उन 16 clauses में से 2 clauses have been removed and 7 new clauses have been added in the Caro of 2016. So we'll understand as to what are those changes which have been incorporated, so that we have a better understanding and clarity about all the provisions of Caro. Then we would look at, friends, one by one all the 21 clauses and understand as to what are our obligations as the auditors of the company, what are our obligations as the auditors of the company, or what are our obligations as the finance and account function of the company. So this is what we would understand at number 5. And then we will look at para 4 of Caro 2020, where reasons to be stated for unfavorable and qualified answers, and we will discuss that more. Then we would understand what are the tasks before the auditors under 2020. So Caro is now already applicable, so that means the financials that would be audited for the financial year 2021, and the auditors who would audit them and who would prepare the report on the audit of the accounts for financial year 2021, they will have to report as per Caro, assuming that Caro 2020 is applicable in those cases. So all these auditors have tasks cut out before them, because it's really very important steps that they will need to take so as to ensure that they comply with the Caro provisions in the spirit of the intent of the lawmakers. And finally, of course, we'll come to the conclusion. So this, friends, is the plan that we have for today's session on Caro 2020. Now, as always, I would also like to share with you as to whom this session would be benefiting. So number one, this session would benefit all the accounting, auditing, finance, and corporate professionals. This program would also benefit all the members of the audit team and the auditors responsible for the audit. This would benefit members on the boards of different companies, and more so members who are on the audit committees of different companies, and more so independent directors who are on the board of different companies. So they would benefit from this session for sure. This program would also benefit management and the corporate advisors It will benefit all businessmen, members of top management teams, because ultimately it is their responsibility to ensure that the books of accounts are proper books of accounts are maintained of the financial transactions. So they too would benefit from this session. And then of course, practicing chartered accountant, cost accountants, and company secretaries and other finance and accounting professionals will also benefit, because they have to advise their clients. They have to advise their clients in respect of matters covered in CARO 2020, as some of the matters given in CARO have direct connection with the practicing cost accountants and the practicing company secretaries. So they would also benefit, even though they are not, or they do not do the audit, statutory audit, but they would still benefit from this session. Government agencies and departments interested in compliance by the corporates with corporate governance, business ethics, and CSR related rules and regulations will also benefit from this session. And finally, friends, of course, all the students of cost accountancy, chartered accountancy, company secretaries, MBA, and all the professional courses, I'm sure would also benefit from this session, because they will have an advanced understanding as to what are the obligations of the auditors and the companies and the managements as regards CARO 2020. So I'm sure they too would significantly benefit from this session. Let's come to now, friends, the specifics of CARO. So the CARO was issued on 25th February 2020. It has become applicable from 1st April 2020. As I said earlier, it was to have become applicable from 1st April 2019, but because of COVID, the date of applicability of CARO has been shifted to 1st April 2020. So that means for the current financial year, it has already become applicable. It is applicable to every report made by the auditor under Section 143 of the Companies Act. So that means all the auditors who have to prepare audit report as per Section 143 of the Companies Act, they will have to incorporate a separate report about these the CARO matters in their audit report. It is also applicable. It is applicable to all companies except few companies that I would discuss with you in any case. But it is also applicable to foreign companies. So this is a question that can come to the minds of many people as to, is CARO applicable to a foreign company? And the answer, of course, is yes. So the foreign companies defined as per Section 2, subsection 42 of the Companies Act, CARO is very much applicable. CARO is not applicable to auditors' report on consolidated financial statements. So remember, it is applicable in case of financial statements which are prepared on a standalone basis. It is applicable in case of financial statements which are prepared on the separate basis, but it is not applicable to consolidated financial statements except the 41 of CARO, which is specifically applicable in respect of the financial statements of consolidated financial statements. So this is what it is. What CARO does, CARO spells out the minimum things. And friends, this is what every one of us need to understand. CARO kya karta hai? CARO brings out minimum things which should be addressed by the auditors in his report in respect of a company to whom CARO is applicable. So ये जो 21 जो items हैं, clauses हैं, ये बहुत ही important clauses हैं, और ये clauses के audit से auditor के ध्यान में आता है कि ये company की functioning कैसी रही है, और ऑडिटर के ध्यान में आता है तो ऑडिटर रिपोर्ट करता है उसको कि ये कंपनी की फंक्शनिंग या फाइनेंशियल में कैसी रही है, और उस रिपोर्ट को पढ़ के द शेयर होल्डर्स एंड द अदर यूजर्स ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स आर एबल टू टेक वेल इन्फॉर्म्ड decisions about that entity. So this is, friends, as far as what the CARO does. Now, CARO 2020 is not applicable to whom? Number one, so CARO 2020 is not applicable to a banking company. It is not applicable to an insurance company. It is not applicable to a company licensed to operate under Section 8 of the Companies Act. It is not applicable to one-person company, that is OPC, and it is also not applicable in case of a small company. So these are the companies to which CARO is not applicable. CARO is applicable to private limited companies per se, but it is not applicable in case of certain private limited companies. And which are the certain private limited companies to which CARO is not applicable? So the companies, private limited company, which is a subsidiary or a parent company of a public company, CARO is applicable. So CARO is applicable if the private limited company is either a subsidiary or a parent company of a public company. CARO is applicable to such a private limited company. If the company's paid up capital and reserves are more than 1 crore, of private limited company, CARO is applicable. If the borrowing exceeds more than 1 crore of a private limited company, CARO becomes applicable. But these borrowings are from the bank and financial institutions. So in case if a private limited company is having borrowings which are more than 1 crore from a bank and financial institutions, and please remember, bank and financial institutions, not other borrowings. So if a company is having more than 1 crore, 1 crore borrowings from banks and financial institutions, then CARO would be applicable to such a private limited company. And then in case if the total revenue of a private limited company are exceeding 10 crores, then also the CARO would be applicable to a private limited company. Why I am emphasizing on this part, friends? I'm emphasizing this part because many of our auditor friends and professional brothers and sisters have their clients who are private limited company, and therefore they would be specifically interested to know as to whether CARO 2020 is applicable in case of a private limited company. So now let me answer this question differently. Now I will answer this question in as to when CARO 2020 is not applicable in case of a private limited company. So that means what? That means ये जो मैं भी आपको बता रहा हूँ, अगर वो situations हैं तो CARO 2020 applicable नहीं है, और अगर वो situations meet नहीं करती हैं तो CARO 2020 will become applicable even to a private limited company also. So when CARO 2020 will not be applicable in case of a private limited company, number one, this private limited company is neither a subsidiary nor a parent company of a public company. That is condition number one. Condition number two, it has got a paid up capital which is less than 1 crore. Paid up capital plus free reserves plus surplus put together is less than 1 crore. That means CARO will not be applicable. This company has got borrowings of less than 1 crore, from a bank or financial institutions, CARO will not be applicable. And this company's total revenue are less than 10 crore, CARO will not be applicable. That means all these four conditions need to be met in case of a private limited company for CARO not to become applicable in case of that private limited company. So what are those four conditions? Those four conditions are: number one, the private limited company should not be a parent or a subsidiary of a public company. Condition number two, the reserves and surplus and paid up capital all put together should not be less than 1 crore of that private limited company. Condition number three, borrowings of this private limited company from banks and financial institutions should not exceed more than 1 crore of that private limited company. And the fourth condition, that the turnover, the revenue of this company as per Schedule 3 of the Companies Act should not exceed more than 10 crores. So in case if all these four conditions are met in case of a private limited company, then CARO will not be applicable to such a private limited company. However, if any of these four conditions are breached in case of a private limited company, CARO will become applicable to that private limited company. That means auditor of that private limited company, while making his report as per section 143 of the Companies Act, will have to incorporate his comments about the 21 clauses which are there as part of the CARO 2020. Now, how do you define a small company? Yeah, very quickly, because this may be of relevance to many of the auditor friends. So paid up cap, as per section 285 of the Companies Act, a small company means a company other than a public company. Okay, so if a company is a public company, remember it is out of the definition of small company in any case. So a company which is as per section 285, whose paid up share capital does not exceed 50 lakhs. Or such higher amount as may be prescribed, which shall not be more than 5 crores. So in that, if that is the case, this company, if the capital, paid up capital of this company, which is a private limited company, which is not a public limited company, whose capital is less than 50 lakhs or 5 crores, or as may be prescribed, then it is a small company. Whose turnover does not exceed more than 2 crores is a small company. So these are the conditions, these are the two conditions which have to be applicable for a company to classify as a small company. And remember, in any case, a following company shall not qualify. So a holding company or a subsidiary company will not qualify as a small company. A company registered under section 8 of the Act will not qualify as a small company. A company or body corporate governed by any special act also will not qualify as a small company. So why the definition of small company is important? Definition of small company is important because CARO is not applicable in case of small companies. So this is, friends, as far as the definition of small company is concerned. Now, what are the changes that are there in case of CARO 2020 over CARO 2016? So as I said in the beginning of the session, friends, 7 new clauses have been added in the CARO 2020, and 2 of the clauses have been removed. As a matter of fact, it is only 1 clause has been removed, 1 clause has been deleted, but it has been added as part of subclause to another clause, that is clause 10. So what are the new clauses which are added? Number 1, unrecorded income. And number 2, internal audit system. Number 3, incurred cash losses. Number 4, resignation of a statutory auditor. Number 5, no material uncertainty about company's capability in meeting its obligations. Number 6, transferred unspent amount to a fund is specified in Schedule 7, which is the schedule for the purpose of activities where the CSR funds can be spent as per section 135. So that clause number 6 is added, new clause added in the CARO 2020. Then qualification or adverse remarks in consolidated financial statement, which is again a new clause. So friends, these are the 7 new clauses which are added as part of the CARO 2020. They were not there. So what is the meaning of it? The meaning of it is that the auditor of a company to whom CARO 2020 is applicable will have to, in addition to the existing clauses, will also have to make comments on these 7 clauses additionally. Which are the clauses that have been deleted? So the first one clause that has been deleted is approval of managerial remuneration. So earlier in CARO 2016, there was a clause 11, and where the auditor were to make a comment as to whether the managerial remuneration has been paid as per section 197 of the Companies Act, and not in or and in case if there were inadequate profit or no profit, then as per Schedule 5. So in case if a company paid remuneration in excess or in violation of the provisions of section 197 or Schedule 5, then whether that company had made arrangement to get the excess remuneration refunded from the managerial personnel, that was the comment required as per CARO 2016. Now that has been done away with. So that clause is not there at all. Now auditors are not required to make a comment with regard to the managerial remuneration. Private placement or preferential issues. So this was the clause that was there in 2016. This clause is there now also. The only difference is earlier it was standing as a separate clause by itself. Now it has been made part of another clause, clause 10. And clause 10 is about the IPOs, about the funds raised through the IPOs or subsequent public offers. So where now this has been added out directly. So these are the friends changes in CARO 2020 over to CARO 2016. Now friends, what we do, now we look at all the clauses one by one. There are 21 clauses, and of course we have a limitation of time, because limitation of time is always there, but it will be my endeavor to give you a good understanding of all these clauses, 21 clauses one by one, and I'm sure you will definitely be able to grasp the gist of the clauses. So the first is first clause is about the fixed assets. Now, as according to this clause, which is about the fixed assets, what comment the auditors have to give in the audit report with regard to the fixed assets? Number 1, is the company maintaining proper records of all the tangible assets as well as the intangible assets? Are the assets verified by the management from time to time? And if there are any material discrepancies, then those discrepancies are suitably dealt with in the books of accounts. And number 3 is, are the title deeds of all the immovable properties in the name of the company? That means asset belonging to the company, and the title deeds are also in the name of the company. Now, in case if it is not the case, that means in case if the asset of a company is held in the name of somebody else other than the company, then this auditors will have to make a comment and disclose information as to which are the assets, which are the immovable properties where the property belongs to the company, but it is ownership is in the name of somebody else. So what details will need to be given for clause 1 on fixed assets? Number 1, description of the asset. Number 2, the gross carrying value of that asset, held in the name of whom, whether promoter, director, their relative or employee. So the person in whose name this asset is being held, whether he's a promoter of the company, director of the company, or their relative or their employee, and the period for which such an asset was held in the name of somebody other than the company, and reasons as to why this company just give me a minute, friends. There's a small technical hitch. Just give me a minute, please.
Okay, sir, no issues, sir. Requesting all the participants, please wait for a few seconds. There is some technical issue.
Okay, so let's come back. So these are the details that would need to be disclosed by the auditor with regard to the assets which belong to the company, but the ownership is not in the name of the company, or the title deeds are in the name of somebody else. Then, of course, it will also need to be commented in case if there has been any valuation done of the assets, and if the valuation has been done, that valuation should have been done by a registered valuer. That is what would need to be commented upon. And in case if there are any property if there are any proceedings initiated or pending against the company for holding any Benami property under the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 1988. So these are the disclosures, these are the comments that an auditor would need to insert with regard to the fixed assets of the company. Then friends, the clause 2 is about the inventory, and with regard to the inventory, the auditor will need to comment as part of the clause 2 as to whether the physical verification of the inventory has been done from the time to time, and whether in the opinion of the auditor, the coverage and the procedure for such verification by the management is appropriate, and wherever the discrepancies are of more than 10% or more, then the aggregate of each class of inventory were noticed and they have been suitably accounted for. And in case if the company has been sanctioned working capital limits in excess of 5 crores. So obviously, and this is very common in case of the industry, because the working capital which is availed by the companies from the banks and the financial institutions is invariably against the security of the inventory. So there are disclosures required in case of a company has availed working capital finance against the inventory, and the disclosure will be that the quarterly returns or the statements which a company is required to submit to the bank, the auditor has to comment that the information furnished in those quarterly statements and the bank state and the stock statements are as per the records of the company. And friends, that is a big responsibility, and it is a very good safeguard as far as the banks are concerned. So these are the points that would need to be taken care of by the auditor as regards CARO with regard to inventories. Then there's a clause number 3, and the clause number 3 is loan given by the company. So अब देखिए क्या होता है कि invariably many of these companies that we have in our country, now all these companies and remember, clause 3 is not applicable to those companies whose business is to give loans. So this will not be applicable to the companies whose business is to give loans or guarantee or security or investment. It is not applicable to those companies. It is applicable to only those companies which are normal operating manufacturing companies, and but they still lend money, or give advances, give security, or give any guarantee. So the clause 3 is relating to loan given by companies. Now, what does it say is whether during the year company has provided loans or provided advances in the nature of loans or stood guarantee or provided security to any other entity, the aggregate amount during the period has to be disclosed. The balance outstanding at the balance sheet date also has to be disclosed and commented with respect to such loans or advances. And not only that, it will also need to disclose as to how much of this loan or advances were given to companies which are joint ventures, which are associates, or which are subsidiary of the company. So that is what would need to be disclosed separately. And how much of these amounts were lent to companies and which were not subsidiaries, which were not associates, or which were not joint ventures of such a company. And the auditor will also need to make a comment with regard to these loans, that the terms and conditions of these loans which have been given by the company to others are not prejudicial to the interest of the company. That means the terms and conditions are not adversely against the company. That is what will need to be disclosed. And in respect of these loans and advances, the nature of loan, whether the schedule of repayment of principal and payment of interest has been stipulated, and whether the repayments or receipts are regular. अब देखिए आप समझ सकते हैं कि इसके पीछे क्या इंटेंशन है. इसके पीछे गवर्नमेंट का इंटेंशन ये है, behind putting this clause in the CARO, that a company is using the money of the shareholders. A company is using the money of the landholder, of the lenders, and this money has to be used for the purpose of the company and not for anything else. And therefore, in case if a company is using the funds given by the shareholders, given by the lenders for anything else other than the purpose of the company, then there has to be enough and adequate disclosure in the financials of the company, and there has to be a comment specifically by the auditors, so that the shareholders who gets the auditor's report is able to appreciate and understand as to how sincerely the company has been using has been managing the resources given to it, and that is your clause number 3. And in case if there are any overdue payments, those are need to be disclosed. Overdue for more than 90 days are to be disclosed. And in case if these, many times there's a clause called evergreening. So what is evergreening? कि आपने एक किसी आपके जान पहचान वाले को लोन दिया, आपके किसी और कंपनी को लोन दिया, जान पहचान वाला हो या एसोसिएट कंपनी हो, subsidiary company or joint venture company ho. So you have given a loan to another entity and this entity is not able to pay it to you. So what you are doing is you are evergreening it. That means to pay the previous loan, you are giving another loan to this company. And as a result of that, effectively what is happening is you are not getting your money paid back. And if that is the case, then the auditors are required to disclose in their audited report such a thing. If a company has granted any loans, so this is your friends clause number 3. Then in case if the company has given loans and advances to directors of a company, then the auditor will need to make a comment as to whether provisions of section 185, which relates to loan to directors, and the provisions of section 186 that relates to loan and investment by a company, whether these provisions have been duly taken care of. So this is the confirmation that has to come from the auditor of the company in his audit report prepared as per section 143 of the Companies Act. So if the compliance, if the loans given to director are in line with section 185 and 186, then that confirmation has to come. And if it is not there, then that confirmation also has to come that though the company has given the loans to the directors, but it has not complied with the provisions of section 185 and 186, that is the obligation and the responsibility of the auditor of the company. Then there's a clause 5 which relates to deposits. So in case the company has accepted deposits or amounts which are deemed to be deposits, whether the following has been complied with. So the following conditions got to be complied with in case if a company has accepted deposit or there are certain amounts which are deemed to be deposits. So what are the compliances? Compliance number 1, whether the directives issued by Reserve Bank of India have been complied with, the provisions of section 73 to section 76, that is chapters 5, which is relating to acceptance of deposits by the companies, whether provisions of section 73 to 76 have been complied with. In case if there is an order issued by the NCLT or the Reserve Bank of India or any other court, whether those directives also have been complied with. Now that is again the auditor has to confirm in his audit report whether this has been done as regards to the deposit. If it has not been done, then he will have to again report in his audit report as to this is what the company has not complied with. Cost records. So clause 6 is about the cost records. So in case of certain companies, as per section 148, central government specifies audit of items, the cost audit of certain items in respect of certain companies. So agar kisi company ke liye the government of India has specified cost audit, then the auditor has to confirm whether maintenance of cost record has been specified by the central government under subsection 1 of section 148 of the Companies Act, and whether such accounts and records have been so made and maintained. Very important, because if the government is specifying maintenance of cost record, it is so because it understands the importance of the cost records in case of this company. Whether this company has been mandated to keep the cost records, and if it has been mandated to keep the cost records, then the auditor has to confirm that the cost records have really been maintained. And please remember, it will not work and it should not work that the auditor getting a letter from the management confirming that we have maintained the audit record, that will not be suffice. The auditor will have to check himself personally and see that the cost records are truly maintained as per the requirement of section 148 subsection 1, and that relates to clause 6. Clause 7 talks about statutory dues. And I'm sure, friends, you can very easily understand. So what is the significance of the clause 7 in CARO relating to the statutory dues? Obviously, it is the obligation of a company that this company has to pay all these statutory dues from time to time, whether under the Goods and Service Tax Act, provident fund, employee state insurance, income tax, sales tax, service tax, duty of customs, duty of excise, value added tax, cess, and any other statutory dues. This is the obligation of the company to pay these dues from time to time to the respective government authorities. Now, in case if it has not been paid, then the auditor is supposed to be informing, commenting in his audit report, saying whether the company has paid them or whether the company has not paid them. And the auditor has to report with regard to those dues which are undisputed. So something which is in dispute, he does not have to report or comment. But in case if there are dues, provident fund dues, there is no dispute. GST dues, no dispute. And income tax dues, no dispute. But these dues not have been paid for a period of more than 6 months, then the auditor will have to report such non-compliance, such non-payment of the statutory dues in his audit report under section 143, that is clause number 7 on statutory dues. Then you have a clause number 8, and which is a new clause. It was not there in 2016 Caro, and this is clause 8 on unrecorded income. So whether any, and please remember this is very important because this is what can happen in many of the cases, whether any transaction not recorded in the books of account have been surrendered or disclosed as income during the year in the tax assessments under the Income Tax Act. That means, is there any income which was not recorded in the financial statements of the company, but subsequently during the tax assessments, income tax assessments, such income has been surrendered or such income has been disclosed. If there are any such amounts, then the auditor will need to make a comment and also make a disclosure in his audit report for the benefit of all the shareholders. It means what, friends? इसका मतलब ये है, this will require the auditor to also audit income tax returns of the entity to identify any such transactions which are not recorded in the books but disclosed as income during the tax assessments. So that becomes an additional responsibility on an auditor with regard to clause 8, which is on unrecorded income. यानी कि unrecorded income का मतलब क्या है कि an income which has been disclosed in the tax assessment but not recorded in the financial statements of the company. Repayment of loan, I'm sure clause number 9, company has to pay is loan that if the company has taken loan from banks and financial institutions, it is supposed to be paying. So the auditor has to, under clause 9, which is on repayment of loan, the auditor has to make a comment in his report whether the company has defaulted in payment of loans or other borrowings or in the payment of interest thereon to any lender. If yes, the period and the amount of default to be reported are to be reported in a prescribed format. So अगर एक कंपनी ने लोन लिया है और फाइनेंशियल ईयर में एक बैंक से या फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन से लोन लिया है और ये लोन या इसके इंटरेस्ट को पे करने में कंपनी ने डिफॉल्ट किया है, then this default has to be reported in a prescribed format, and the format has been given as part of the CARO. And what information will come in that format? Number 1, nature of borrowing, including debt securities. That is number 1. Number 2, name of the lender, who is the lender. Number 3, amount not paid on due date, that will come. Number 4, whether it is the principal or interest which has not been paid. Number 5, number of days for which it has remained unpaid on the date of the balance sheet, and remarks if any. And that's your clause number 9 that will need to be commented by the auditor as for the CARO. Now, the auditor will also need to disclose whether the entity has been declared as a willful defaulter by any of the bank or financial institutions. And number 2, whether the company has used the amount of term loans for the purpose for which it was taken. If the amount was diverted, then the auditor will also need to mention and comment as to where the amount was diverted and how much amount was diverted and for what purpose it was diverted. It has to be disclosed. So, and number 4, in case if company has raised short-term funds which have been used for the long-term purposes. Please remember, it is suicidal. For any business, using the short-term sources for the long-term application is suicidal. अगर एक business को अपने को बंद करना है, तो उस business ने क्या करना चाहिए? Short-term borrowing को long-term application में use करना चाहिए. Closure is 100% guaranteed. So, as per clause 9, the auditor is also supposed to report and find out. And remember, that becomes an additional responsibility. That means the auditor will need to prepare the fund flow statement of the entity, because only when he prepares the fund flow statement of the entity, he would be able to figure out as to whether any of the short-term sources have been used for the long-term application. So once he prepares the fund flow statement, he will figure out as to how much of the short-term sources have been used for the long-term purposes. And he would also be able to figure out as to where those funds have been used. And that is, he has an obligation to report in case any of such thing has happened, where that means short-term sources have been used for the long-term applications. Whether the company has taken any funds for any entity or person on account of or to meet the obligations of its subsidiaries, associates or joint ventures. यानी कि अगर एक कंपनी ने अपने लिए नहीं, अपनी सब्सिडियरी के लिए या अपने जॉइंट वेंचर के लिए या अपने एसोसिएट के लिए पैसा लिया है, बोरो किया है, the auditor has to disclose that in the auditor's report. Whether the company has raised loans during the year on the pledge of securities held in its subsidiaries. So securities which are held in the subsidiary, but those securities which are held in the subsidiaries have been used for the purpose of raising a loan. If that is the case, that also will have to be disclosed as per CARO 2020. Then you have a clause 10, and clause 10 talks about the utilization of IPO and further capital for further public offer. So as per the clause 10, friends, the auditor will need to make a comment in his audit report with regard to as to during the financial year, has the company raised any money by way of IPO or by way of further public offer. It may be by way of a debt, or it may be by way of equity. So in case if the company has raised any such funds, and then he will also have to comment as to whether the company has used these funds for the purpose for which they were raised. That because it is important, the company has to use the money for the purpose for which it is raising that money. If the company is raising those funds for something else, that means company is violating the good governance, and that has to be reported by the auditor in his audit report. And also, in case if a company, and this clause that I'm talking about was earlier part of the main, earlier was part of the CARO 16, and now it is removed as a separate point, but it is coming as part of clause 10. So in case if a company has raised funds during the financial year by way of preferential allotment or by way of private placement of shares or convertible debentures, and convertible debentures could be partly, fully, optionally, irrespective of that, so long as it is convertible into equity. If the company has raised money using convertible debenture or shares by way of preferential allotment or private placement, in that case, the auditor has to report, auditor has to comment in his audit report as to whether the provisions of section 42 for the private placement and provisions of section 62 for fresh issue of shares have been duly complied with. Number one. Number two, whether these funds which have been raised by way of private placement or preferential allotment, whether these funds have been used for the purpose for which they have been raised. That is what also will need to be reported as per the clause 10 of CARO. In case of then there is a clause 11, which is on reporting of fraud. So there is a specific responsibility that the auditors have with regard to reporting of the frauds. So what the auditor has to do, he has to find out whether any fraud by the company or any fraud on the company has been noticed or reported during the year. If yes, then the nature and the amount involved is to be indicated. That's number one. Number two, whether any report under subsection 12 of section 143 of the Companies Act has been filed by the auditor in form ADT 4. That means what? That means in certain cases when the auditor believes that the fraud has been committed, and the fraud has been committed in connivance with the management of the company, in that case, the auditor has the responsibility and the obligation to report such a fraud to the central government directly, in Form ADT 4. So whether any such thing has been done, it will need to be reported by the auditor in his audit report. Whether the auditor has considered whistleblower complaints, that is also what he would need to report in the auditor's report as per clause 11 of CARO. Point number 12, which is, friends, we might overshoot by 10 minutes. So it is only 6:01, and I think we should be able to close it by 6:10. So I suppose it's fine with everyone. Clause number 12 is about the Nidhi Company. Nidhi Company, of course, is not such common for most of us, but there are certain obligations in case if a person is auditing a Nidhi Company, then there are three things that he has to comment on. Number one, whether the Nidhi Company that he is auditing is having net owned funds to deposits in the ratio of 1:20. In my view, the net owned funds to deposits in the ratio of 1:20 is also dangerous, but whatever it is, it is. So the auditor has to report whether this ratio of 1:20 between the net owned funds and the deposits is maintained. If it is not maintained, then he has to report it. Number two, whether the Nidhi Company is maintaining 10% unencumbered term deposits as is specified in Nidhi Rules 2014 to meet out the liability. So liquid funds has unencumbered hai, because the company can use them anytime it wants it, and it has to maintain for taking care of any unforeseen contingencies, whether the Nidhi Company are doing or not doing. And then you got a whether there has been any default in payment of interest on deposits by the Nidhi Company, that will need to be reported by the auditor. Clause number 13 is relating to related party transactions. And friends, I'm sure every one of us very easily understand that related party transaction is a very easy means of misusing the funds and misusing the business for the personal gains or unfair advantage in favor of certain people. And therefore, CARO has a provision in clause 13 where the auditor has to specifically make comments and report about the related party transactions. And why is that so? So that the shareholders and the users of the financial statements are aware as to what kind of related party transactions are happening in this company. And if there are too many related party transactions happening in case of a company, that means apparently something is wrong somewhere. So as per clause, the auditor will need to report whether all transactions with the related party is in compliance with section 177, that is the audit committee. That means audit committee has to meet regularly, and all the related party transactions need to be placed before the audit committee. Audit committee has to approve those related party transactions. Only when the audit committee approves those related party transactions, then only such transactions can be undertaken by the company and not otherwise. Then the details have been disclosed in the financial statements, etc., as required by the applicable accounting standards. So not only the requirements of section 177, which is on the audit committee, has to be taken care of and commented on by the auditor, he also has to comment whether the provisions of section 188, which relates to related party transactions, have been taken care of, also needs to be commented by the auditor. And plus, of course, whether the disclosure as per the applicable accounting standard are done or not, that also has to be commented by the auditor. And as regards the accounting standard, in case of a company where Ind AS have become mandatory, the disclosures will need to be made in the financials as per Ind AS 24. And in case if a company to which Ind AS is not applicable, then the account disclosures will need to be made as per Ind AS 18, which is again on related party transactions. Then you have clause 14, internal audit system. So the auditor has to comment here whether the company has got internal audit system which is commensurating with the size and the nature of the business, and whether the report of the internal auditors for the period under audit were considered by the statutory auditors. So these are the two things. Number one, whether the company has got internal audit system which is commensurating to the size of the company, and number two, the statutory auditor in his report has also to mention whether he has looked at the report of the internal auditors, which is in his own interest, that every auditor must always look at the internal audit reports, and that is what he has to specifically comment. In case if there are, then clause number 15 is about non-cash transactions. non-cash transactions would mean, that means something is happening where there is only the exchange is happening for kind and not for cash payment. So for under clause 15 relating to non-cash transactions, whether the company has entered into non-cash transactions with the director or person connected with him, and if so, whether the provisions of section 192, which is relating to restrictions on non-cash transactions involving directors of the companies, have been duly complied with. So in case if there are any non-cash transactions between the company and the directors or people related with them, then whether the provisions of section 192 have been complied with or not, he has to mention whether it is complied with or it is not complied with. Then you have a clause 16, which is registered under RBI Act. So the clause 16 is applicable in case of NBFCs and in case of core investment companies. So in case of in case of an NBFC or in case of a core investment company, there are certain disclosures required to be made. The auditor has to confirm and comment whether those disclosures have been taken care of, or whether those compliances as per the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 have been duly complied with. So that will come. Then you have clause number 17, that is on incurred cash losses. So this is again, friends, a new provision. It was not there in CARO 2016. So agar a company incurs cash loss, and friends understand cash loss would mean what? Cash loss would mean that the revenue, the cash from the revenue, cash from the income of this company is not enough to take care of all its cash expenses. That means the cash income is less than the cash expenses. That means this company is incurring cash losses. And remember, incurring cash loss by a company is a very dangerous situation, and it does not foretell very good about the company. And therefore, very rightly, MCA in CARO 2020 has incorporated this clause 17, where the auditor has to comment upon as to if the company has incurred cash losses. And if the company has incurred the cash losses, the auditor will also need to report as to how much is the quantum of the cash loss. Remember, it's a very dangerous situation for any company to incur the cash loss. Incurring loss in any case is bad, but incurring cash loss is even worse. Actually, that means the company does not have enough money, enough cash coming from the operations to meet all its cash expenses. That's a bad sign. Then in case of resignation, clause 18, which is relating to resignation of a statutory auditor. So this is again a new clause. So in case if there is a statutory auditor which has resigned during the financial year, and remember there have been a number of cases in last 2-3 years where the statutory auditors in case of certain companies have been resigning before completion of the audit, and that means there are certain issues. So the auditor in his report has to comment about the resignation of statutory auditor, and not only he has to comment about the resignation of the statutory auditor, but he also has to mention that what were the issues on account of which the statutory auditor resigned, and whether he has taken care of those issues, those concerns, those objections, and if he has, then how has he taken care of. So that's your clause number 18. Clause number 19 is about no material uncertainty about company's ability in meeting its liabilities. So obviously, friends, the auditor has a bigger responsibility here, and really a big responsibility here, because auditor has to make a comment about the ability of the business to take care of his obligations in next 1 year. So the auditor, by looking at the ratios, by looking at the fund flow, by looking at the cash flow, by looking at whatever he has to do, he has to make a comment whether he sees that there is a material uncertainty about company's ability in meeting its liabilities, or the company is quite comfortable in meeting its liability. So that is the comment that needs to be made by the auditor, and this means it's the auditor will need to really make a judgment. He will have to really apply his mind before he could make a comment about the ability of a businesses to take care of his obligations. That's your clause number 19. Clause number 20 is about, friends, transferred unspent amount to a fund specified in Schedule 7. So you have Section 135, which is on corporate social responsibility. And we all understand that as per Section 135 of the Companies Act, every company is required to spend 2% of the average net profit of past 3 years on corporate social activities. These corporate social activities are specified in Schedule 7 of the Companies Act. And therefore, a company to which Section 135 becomes applicable, this company has to mandatorily spend 2% of the average net profit of last 3 years. And please remember, the net profit has to be calculated as per Section 198 of the Companies Act. सो ये कंपनी की जिम्मेदारी है, ये कंपनी की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि जो भी उसके 2% जो अमाउंट होती है, in that financial year this company has to spend. If it does not spend, then this company has to deposit this amount, unspent amount, in a specified bank account. That means the company cannot keep that money with itself. Company will have to deposit that amount in a specified bank account and will ensure that within next 3 years this amount is spent on corporate social responsibility related activities as specified in Schedule 7. If it is not done, then the company will have to transfer these funds in a fund which is specified in Schedule 7 to the Companies Act. Now, auditor will have to examine all this and make a comment whether the company has spent the amount. If it has not spent the amount, whether it has deposited the amount to a specified account. If it is not deposited, that would need to be reported. If it is deposited and spent, that would need to be reported. And if it is deposited but not transferred to Schedule 7 fund after the expiry of 3 years, that will also need to be reported. And so that is your clause number 20 of CARO. And then finally, friends, this is again new. That is, clause 21 is specifically a new clause, which is for the purpose of consolidated financial statements. And that is whether there have been any qualification or adverse remarks by the respective auditors in the companies of included in the consolidated financial statement. So a consolidated financial statement would mean what? What means a parent company की जो कंपनियां हैं उन सबका इकट्ठा जो statement बनेगा, that is consolidated financial statement. So remember, friends, as I said in the beginning, clause 1 to clause 20 of CARO 2020 are not applicable to the consolidated financial statement, but clause 21 of CARO 2020 is applicable exclusively to the consolidated financial statement. And what it is going to comprise of? It is going to comprise of all the adverse remarks, qualifications, comments in all the entities which are getting consolidated by the respective auditor as per CARO 2020. So that is what will need to be incorporated in the financial statement of a consolidated financial statement as per CARO 20 clause 21. So friends, these are all the 21 clauses. And now of course, as per clause 4 of CARO, the disclosures are to be made. So the auditor has to state the basis for such unfavorable qualified answers in case if there are any. And if for some reason auditor thinks that he cannot express an opinion on any specified matter covered in CARO 2020, then he has to also specify the reason as to why can't he do that actually. And so what are the tasks before the auditors under CARO 2020? Number 1, auditors report to CARO. Number 2, detailed scrutiny of all 21 matters by the auditor as given in CARO 20. No management certificate should be relied upon. So CARO 2020 के compliance के लिए management अगर बोलता है कि हम आपको certificate दे देंगे, उस पर भरोसा करके आप report कर दीजिए, not to be done. Point number 3, all 21 matters as given in CARO to be specifically included in the auditor's report and commented on. Number 4, Para 4, subsection 2 of CARO says reasons to be stated for unfavorable or qualified answers. Number 5, compliance with the requirements of CARO 2020 to be specific part of the audit plan. That means when an auditor is planning the audit of an entity of which he is the auditor, at that point in time in his planning, he has to have a separate box of planning. And this is how he would carry out the audit of the issues mentioned in CARO 21. He will need to develop, point number 6, he would need to develop a checklist covering each of the 21 clauses of para 3 of CARO so as to ensure each and every aspect of those 21 clauses are taken care of. And finally, point number 7, preparation of a specimen draft report covering all possibilities as regards audit of the 21 clauses. And friends, finally, the conclusion. If a faithful reporting, and this is very important, and I would like all of you to please pay attention to this because this is the crux of CARO 2020. This is the intent as to why the authorities wish to have the CARO 2020 in place. If a faithful reporting is done by the auditor in his audit report above 21 clauses of para of CARO, any person by merely reading this part of the audit report itself will be able to come to a fair conclusion about the health and financial performance of any business, which can then be used as the basis for further study and analysis. So friends, with this, I come to the close of my session. Thank you so much to every one of you. Thank you, Rishikesh, and thank you all the participants. More so, I would like to, of course, all the participants are always close to my heart. So all of you who have been attending all these sessions regularly, thank you so much. And we would again plan something similar kind, maybe next time in a different flavor and color. And I'm sure we will interact once again. So thank you so much, Rishikesh, and over to you. Thank you.
So thank you so much. And I think, after attending your 30-day session, as a faculty of marketing, what I feel, if you're dedicated and if your attitude is towards learning something, it's very sure you will get something. And sir, I can assure you after 30 days, I got a lot of different stuff altogether. It was not related to finance and marketing or anything. It was about your content. It was about your concept. It was about topic related to life in finance, and both is important. If I want to survive in this world, I should know how to manage my finance and how to manage my life, sir. That is very much important, sir. And sir, thank you so much for your active. I think you're very much passionate about delivering something. One thing I observed, sir, the way your time management, your content, your delivery, your communication, your stories, sir, the way you're putting something, that was excellent, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So today you deliver on significance of CARO, companies applicable or not applicable for CARO, and you discussed on 21 clauses of CARO and definition of different small companies altogether. So I think, sir, now again it's very difficult for me as a moderator, as a Dr. Krishna as a moderator, we feel like again we can continue some sort of session in coming future. Maybe the format, maybe it going to change, but maybe in a coming days, sure we are going to invite you for on a different topic, sir, and very very sure we'll invite you as a motivational speaker on life skill topic, sir. I think
sure it will be my pleasure, Rishikesh. I will be really delighted to do that.
Yes, yes. Now it's time to say a word of thanks. So good evening all. I, Professor Rishikesh Kumar, feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a word of thanks. On behalf of PCT Group, Pune Business School and SB Patil Institute of Management family, I convey my regards and hearty thanks to our trustee member for his everlasting support. Thanks to our Executive Director, Dr. Girish Desai, sir, for his motivation and guidance. Dr. C.N. Narayana, sir, Director, Pune Business School, and Dr. Kirti Dharwadkar, ma'am, Director, SB Patil Institute of Management, Pune, for the kind support and encouragement for the 30 days online webinar series. And my special and heartfelt thanks to our beloved and dynamic speaker, C.A. Pramod Jain, sir, for accepting our invitation for 30 days online webinar. During his 30 days webinar, sir has delivered session on numerous topics related to finance and life skills like corporate governance, information memorandum, resolution plan, INDAS, discounted cash flow, business valuation, making India 5 billion economy, and how to reach pinnacle of success and how to enjoy life beyond work. Thanks to all professionals, academicians, students, and all the lovely participants for your active participation during this 30 days online webinar series conducted by dynamic speaker CA Pramod Jain sir. All the participants have enjoyed your session, sir. I'm sure we all are gonna utilize your valuable inputs and suggestions for our professional as well as my personal journey. Thanks you again for making this webinar successful. Sir, I love to quote one quote that is just success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. For the sake of benefits of all participants, I would like to reiterate that all the recorded sessions are available on Pune Business School YouTube channel. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of long 30 days online webinar hosted by PCET Pune Business School. Thank you so much.
I also would like to thank a very dear friend of mine, CA Pradeep Lodha. And I motivate others, but he's the one who motivates me actually.
Great.
So, and I'm glad because he's one person with whom I'm always interacting. So I thought I would also like to thank my dear friend CA Pradeep Lodha, who has really been a big force in my all the endeavors. And so once again, Professor Rishikesh, Dr. Krishna, and Dr. Girish Desai, and your Pimpri Chinchwad Education Trust, and everybody, your Pune Business School, all of you, thank you so much. And all the participants, thank you so much. And I wish all of you wonderful times always. I'm sure your new management school, PBS, is really going to be a landmark on the management education front, not only in India, but globally. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. 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 Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.